Hey guys, Mike here from Rapid Purple. I wanted to do another quick little video and talk with you guys today about SSL certificates. Kind of the very basics of, SSL, what SSL is for, some of the misconceptions that people have started to have with SSL now that it's gained a little bit more kind of mainstream popularity. And it's gained that mainstream popularity primarily thanks to Google. Back in August of 2014, Google decided to publicly say that they were going to, that they were considering giving an SEO ranking boost to SSL secure websites. Now, Google, said we're going to give a small ranking boost. Everybody read that as I'm going to install an SSL certificate on my website and I'm going to rank on the first page of Google when I used to be on the 32nd page. And tons of different misconceptions started popping up, such as SSL certificates secure my whole website, I won't get hacked, or that SSL certificates are $1,000, a year pieces of, things. So we're going to try to touch base on some of those misconceptions. Lastly, I want to try to go over briefly who actually needs SSL, and when you should consider getting SSL and when you shouldn't consider getting SSL. So just to put this out there in the very beginning of this video and to save you the next 10 minutes worth of listening to me, if you do not collect any personal information on your website and you only want to install an SSL certificate because Google is going to rank you on page 1, close the video, stop watching this, go write a blog post, go write some unique content for your website, go find another great website that matches up with yours, email the webmaster and see if he'll change a link with you if your site is up to par quality-wise with them. Any one of those things will give you a hell of a lot more benefit than installing an SSL certificate on your site in order to get that ranking boost from Google. So let's get that right out of the way, and if that's what you're watching it for, goodbye. Goodbye. Everybody else that's left, let's quickly touch base on the basics of SSL certificates and what exactly they are. So the main purpose, or one of the main purposes of SSL certificates essentially, is to prevent middleman attacks or eavesdropping attacks. When somebody's sitting there and intercepting some bits of data that you are sending back and forth between you and the website that you're on, i.e. the web server that is serving you that website, and they can potentially intercept anything that you type in. So your address, your phone number, let's say you're doing a checkout and you type in your credit card information. Back in the past, before SSL certificates and the whole concept of the security and encryption came into play, that's essentially what people were unfortunately going through. So to help counter that, we came out with a way to encrypt kind of that communication layer between your website visitor and your website. So whatever content is served to your website visitors is encrypted and then decrypted on their computer, and subsequently whatever information they share with you, be it via some basic text to contact form or uploading a picture or anything else via an upload form on your site, any data that they send out to you is then encrypted as well to help secure it during the transfer stage. So that's essentially what SSL does, and we've covered kind of that main point of SSL, securing all of that information and helping to secure against middlemen and eavesdropping attacks. Now lastly, SSL also helps to secure, or I guess to identify properly the company or the website, or even the person that is directly behind the site that you're on. So, for example, one of the most common phishing attacks will be fake emails that you'll get from, for example, PayPal. And they won't actually be from PayPal because PayPal doesn't send you things like this, but they will be, phishing emails that will look like they come from a PayPal-related email address, or it might even come from something that says it is a PayPal email address. And it'll have something along the lines of, we noticed some suspicious activity, we need you to log in over here and verify it. And you'll click the link on it and it'll take you to something that's like paypal.com.50megs .com/login/crazy numbers, links, and so forth. So that at first glance it kind of looks legit. And then you notice that there is no secure connection to this, and there is no padlocked icon that's letting you know, hey, I'm actually browsing this specific site, and it's not somebody pretending to be this specific site. Such as here, where you can see the identity is verified to tell me that I am actually pulling this image off stopthehacker.com. On my own site, my contact form is secured. Again, just kind of, it made me feel better. But you can clearly see that you are actually browsing rapidpurple.com. If for some reason my site had any bit of risk of sending out phishing attacks to anybody else, that would help secure me from that. So that's kind of the basics of SSL, and we've got that covered and out of the way, and we know essentially what it does. So let's go over some of the things that it isn't, or some of the things that it doesn't do, and some of the misconceptions that have unfortunately arisen since Google said they'll rank everybody on the first page for having an SSL certificate. So first off, an SSL certificate does not secure your website. And I totally get where this confusion came from. Most people initially that are kind of just getting into the whole website and being a webmaster scheme of things. Small business owners that are just building their first website. New people to the field of e-commerce that are just getting their first kind of product out there, their first website built, will hear about SSL certificates and will hear about SSL security and will generally hear the term, I secured my website, spoken by somebody that has installed an SSL certificate on their site. The problem with that is that you can interpret that as I've secured my website and it is now secure and nobody will hack my website, which unfortunately a lot of people do. So let's cover that quickly. An SSL certificate does not secure your website. It's not preventing anybody from running a DDoS attack on your site. It's not going to save you if you have a plugin that you haven't updated in the last 4 years on your WordPress website that at this point has a backdoor in it, and you happen to piss off somebody, or somebody happens to come across your site that just wants to expose that and wants to get access to your data, or just ruin your day and take your website down. This isn't going to protect you from that. You should definitely have some good either server side, whether it's software or hardware related security in place, whether that's a firewall, whether that's security through a content delivery network. Cloudflare is actually a great kind of start off for that. It's substantially cheap on one of their cheapest plans. I want to say it's $10 a month. That could be a little bit off on that, but it's definitely somewhere within that range. That will definitely do a lot more as far as protecting you from hacking attacks and actually securing your website. The SSL certificate is only securing the information transmitted back and forth between you and your website visitor, or your web server and your website visitor. That's it. So we're not securing your website. Number 2, an SSL certificate is not ranking you on page 1 of Google. Again, anything from unique content to properly putting the best keyword into your first H1 tag on your homepage. To generating even a partially decent backlink, to just posting more activity and more posts on a social network. Any one of those things is going to generate you more of an SEO ranking factor than an SSL certificate will, at least for right now. As far as anybody in the SEO community has seen, I've ran an SSL certificate on my site since last year now. I know various other people have as well, just to kind of test it out and see what happens. And there's really there's just no visible SEO ranking boost right now. It's not to say that there isn't going to be, but there isn't right now, and there's so many better things that you could focus on doing to rank your website that just this isn't one of them. So let's throw that myth out the window right now. Lastly, SSL certificates are not expensive. Yes, there are websites you can go to that, to not be biased, I won't go off, just listing, but there are websites that you can go to where you could spend $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, $1,000 a year for an SSL certificate. That being said, there are also places you can go to and spend $10 a year and get an SSL certificate as well. I'd say shop around. Go to places like Namecheap, go to places like GoDaddy, go to places, go to domain registrars. They, considering the amount of these things that they sell in bulk, in packages along with their domain names and so forth and so on, you can definitely grab it for a substantially great price. And again, that $10 a year price for an SSL certificate, that's essentially, there's Google Domains just came out of beta, came out of private beta today and is now in public beta, and a domain name costs you $12 a year. So an SSL certificate being $10 a year makes it cheaper than the domain name you'll have to run it on. So they're not expensive. There are places that try to make them expensive. They don't have to be expensive. Most of the people looking or watching this video do not need an expensive SSL certificate. You can get, again, a very basic one for $10 a year. You can get a wildcard one for $100 a year that'll allow you to have as many subdomains as you want using all the same SSL certificate. So it's not expensive. Lastly, I guess let's cover who actually needs an SSL certificate. So again, we've discussed the fact that if you only want an SSL certificate for the SEO ranking boost and that you are not collecting any bit of personal information or private information on your website, you don't need an SSL certificate. That being said, if you do collect information on your site, then you have to determine whether or not this is private information or not. And this is kind of where the gray area of things fall. So there's the side of the argument that says that things such as your basic name and email address are not really private information and are public because the email address is intended to give out to other people to get emails back and forth, and your name is obviously used to refer to you. So you could be on that side of the argument. You could be on the side of the argument that says that an email is there to be given out, however, only if I choose to. And that being said, it is technically private. Me personally, I'd say if you collect, any real data about a person and then store it somewhere else on your site, go ahead and run an SSL certificate. Again, even if it's just the name and an email address, it'll just make people feel that much better. There have been some people that ran tests on this and did see better subscription rates to things as simple as email signups, just because people feel better sharing their information to something that is secure. And I guess people enjoy that little green padlock up there, and it makes everybody feel a little bit safer. So that being said, there's definitely the benefit to that. And again, I feel if you collect any bit of information, especially private information, passwords, email addresses, physical street locations, street addresses, credit card numbers, anything like that, you definitely want to run an SSL certificate. Furthermore, you don't want to just run it on the page where you collect it, but if you create sessions, or cookies or anything else like that, run your SSL certificate throughout all the pages where that session is utilized and those cookies are utilized. You'll want to keep having things encrypted because there's no sense in encrypting that, login once and then having it not encrypted after that. Kind of defeats some of the purpose, and there have been recent attacks that kind of focus specifically on that. So no sense in doing that again. That being said, if you are running something like an e-commerce website, you just need an SSL certificate. First off, you're collecting private, very private information such as credit cards, billing zip codes, CCV codes on the back of cards, addresses, names associated with those cards. That has to be encrypted. Morally, you should feel responsible to encrypt it. Apart from that, you have to encrypt it in order to be PCI compliant. So if you want to sell online, you obviously have to accept payment in some way, shape, or form. You can either use PayPal, which essentially is a merchant account, or You can utilize, your own merchant account. If you have a retail storefront location, you'll call them up. They'll be more than happy to set you up with a gateway. Some of them use authorized.net. Some of them have their own proprietary gateways that they've created that they utilize. Every single one of these online e-commerce merchant accounts is going to require an SSL certificate in order to be PCI compliant. If you are not, you'll either not get your online merchant account, or you'll pay several $100s, I want to say once a year, as a PCI non-compliancy fee. And there's obviously a lot more risks and higher fees for all your transactions and so forth associated with that. So that being said, if you're running anything as far as an e-commerce site, you definitely want to have an SSL certificate. The only way that you get away with not having an SSL certificate and running an e-commerce website is if you are processing your credit cards offsite. So if you are running the very basic form of PayPal processing, whereas whatever I want I add into what ends up to be my PayPal shopping cart, and I click the check now button and it sends me over to paypal.com, and only there do I type in my personal information, my name, my credit card details, and my PayPal login, then your website is not actually collecting any personal data. PayPal's website is secure, you're not collecting any data, you don't necessarily need that SSL certificate. However, most people, when they're shopping anywhere, just feel better buying anything from, again, a secure site. It shows that you took that thought and care into making sure that any information you do collect is encrypted and is secure. So kind of feel it out as to how you'd like to go with it. But again, you could get away with not having an SSL certificate and running an e-commerce site in that sense. Now, on the complete other side of the spectrum, you could have something, as simple as this. So Jab is a phenomenal sheet metal company out in Long Island, not far away from me. And they have a very simple, very clean website that does not actually have a contact form. It lists some email addresses and it calls it a day. So at no point on their whole entire site do they collect any bit of information really at all, whether personal, public, private. They're not collecting it. So for them to go through the work of running an SSL certificate would just be pointless, because there's nothing that they're really going to get from it, apart from a couple of headaches that I'll briefly start to go into. So first off, getting your SSL certificate set up, you have the initial setup of the SSL certificate, which is purchasing it, registering it, getting verified, which might take some paperwork and a couple of phone calls, getting that certificate installed on your server, and then getting it all functional with your website. Now, if you have a very simple HTML-based website, all you have to do is make sure your links point to the correct resource things, and that everything is coming from an encrypted source, and you're good to go. If you're running something like a content management system, if you're running something like WordPress, you then run into making sure that your theme has been coded to properly serve everything from either an encrypted or a non-encrypted source. You have to make sure that all of your plugins function properly when things are served from an encrypted source. There's a substantially high possibility that you'll have to go in and manually edit plugins, manually edit the theme that you're using, again, in order to fix things being served from a non-encrypted source and make sure that's functioning perfectly well and good. Once you're done with that, you want to make sure that all the search engines know that you've swapped over to HTTPS versus HTTP, so you'll want to make sure that you have your proper 301 redirect set up, and you've updated your site in Google Webmaster Tools, Bing Webmaster Tools, if you're using Yandex Webmaster Tools. So once you've got all of that done, you then have the potential of having a slower website than you started with. Now, generally you won't. In fact, there's even proven ways that you can speed up your site by making it HTTPS versus HTTP and running an SSL certificate. However, the concept is that everything that your website normally served, it still has to serve, but now your web server has to encrypt it when it serves it, and subsequently the visitor's browser or computer has to decrypt it when they receive it. So there's obviously that, it adds that extra little bit of work that has to get done when a website just has to get loaded, which comes with the potential of it being slower. Again, there's workarounds in this, minimizing your code, combining all your things into one CSS file versus 13 definitely helps out. but there's, that chance that you may slow down your site slightly. So that being said, that should definitely give you a great overview on really the pros and kind of the cons of running an SSL certificate right now, what it should be used for, what it shouldn't be used for, what you may have been thinking wrong about it, and what you definitely had right about it. And this video definitely became longer than I thought it was going to be, as I planned it to be about 10 minutes long, and we are 20 minutes in right now. So I will let you guys go, especially since I'm recording this at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I would like to leave my office myself as well. Thank you. I'll see you later.